Welcome to today's Brand Origin Deep Dive. You've heard of the product, but do you know how a forgotten warehouse accident and a colorblind designer reshaped its global image forever? We're pulling back the digital curtain on a brand that was everywhere, then seemed to vanish, leaving only echoes. If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, or share your first memory of encountering this brand's world. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. You step into a dimly lit server archive, the air thick with the hum of ancient machines and the faint, metallic scent of ozone. It feels like a digital graveyard, aisles lined with forgotten towers of hard drives and tangled bundles of cables. But here, amidst the relics of a past web, a faint glow emanates from an old, dusty monitor. It displays fragmented pieces of something that was once everywhere: Flash. You are entering the late 90s and early 2000s internet, a landscape unlike anything we know today, chaotic, vibrant, and undeniably clunky, like stepping into a digital flea market packed with flashing neon signs. This is the world Flash built, dominating the visual and interactive experience. Its initial allure was undeniable. Suddenly, static pages could burst into life with complex animations, embedded videos, and games that didn't require a separate download. You witness Flash's near-total market saturation, the king of online multimedia. But beneath the surface of this vibrant, interactive world, a growing undercurrent of frustration brews. The core brand element here is its ubiquity, coupled with significant technical compromises. Remember the endless buffering? The fans on your beige box whirring like a jet engine? The laptop battery draining faster than a leaky bucket? You see the visual flicker of looping Flash banners plastered across every site, a jarring contrast to the static text around them, hinting at instability. Brand historians still debate whether this aggressive push for complete market dominance, prioritizing visual flair over underlying technical efficiency, was ultimately Flash's greatest strength or its fatal flaw. The emotional shift you feel moves from initial wonder at the interactive possibilities to a creeping sense of annoyance and technical fragility. That persistent, slightly unsettling visual flicker becomes a symbol, not just of annoying ads, but of instability beneath the surface. This widespread flicker, this visible technical debt, was seen by a powerful, hidden force, not merely as an annoyance, but as a fundamental threat to a different, faster, and more open digital future they envisioned. One major historical turning point that solidified Flash's early dominance was its acquisition by Macromedia in 1996, integrating it into a suite of web development tools that became industry standard. A quirky, lesser-known detail? Flash was originally called Future Splash Animator, developed by a small company called Future Wave Software, and was initially positioned more as a tool for creating vector-based animation for websites, before evolving into the complex platform it became. Moving from that initial landscape of open possibility, you shift focus, entering the sterile, quiet labs of a competitor known for its obsessive control and polish, Apple. Here, behind locked doors and under bright, clinical light, a new vision for computing, especially mobile, is being meticulously crafted. You witness the early stages of iPhone development, a major turning point in modern tech history, and the engineering challenges they faced. The brand core in this space is the nascent Safari browser on these early handheld prototypes. Beautiful, but struggling. A fundamental conflict emerges: Apple's relentless pursuit of performance and seamless touch responsiveness, crashes headfirst into Flash's technical demands. You feel the smooth, cool glass of early touchscreen prototypes, then the faint heat radiating from test units, straining to render Flash-heavy web pages. There's a silent intensity to late-night coding sessions as engineers try to bend the web to their will. The emotional shift is palpable, moving from hopeful innovation to a hardening resolve against perceived technical compromises embodied by Flash. That symbolic flicker you encountered earlier? Here, it's recontextualized. It becomes a defect, an unacceptable imperfection that simply must be engineered out of existence, no matter the cost. Brand historians still debate whether this hardening stance was purely technical or deeply ideological from the start. Foreshadowing appears in intense internal debates and the growing quiet conviction of key figures. Flash wasn't just incompatible, it was ideologically opposed to their future vision. It had to go. Section 3. The Manifesto of Omission. As this story unfolded, you arrive at a screen displaying a now infamous open letter, Thoughts on Flash by Steve Jobs. It stands stark on a white digital background, a digital silence briefly following its release before the subsequent cacophony of online reaction. This document wasn't just an opinion, it was a public declaration of war against a technology that had dominated the web for years. You examine the points made: security vulnerabilities, performance bottlenecks, draining battery life, and a call for open standards, a principle applied perhaps selectively. The core brand element here is the letter itself, a strategic communication masterpiece, some would say, or a calculated hit piece, others might argue. This moment marks a major turning point. The emotional shift is palpable, moving from a period of simmering internal conflict over Flash's viability on their devices to a decisive public severance that instantly polarized the tech world. The symbolic thread of the flicker, the choppy video, the crashing browser tabs, is explicitly named and condemned here, framed not just as an annoyance, but a technical liability and a barrier to the superior user experience the brand promised. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind this letter, suggesting that while the technical arguments were valid, the true motivation might have been rooted in a deeper desire for control and ecosystem dominance, a hidden agenda masked skillfully by technical rationale. Imagine for a moment a hypothetical leaked internal memo debating the exact wording and timing, emphasizing certain technical points while carefully downplaying others, revealing the strategic depth of this seemingly simple statement. It underscores how calculated this manifesto truly was. Building on the sheer ubiquity and often overwhelming presence of Flash, you now walk through the digital ruins left in its wake. The brand, once synonymous with interactive web, faces a stark reality. Its dominance is rapidly fading. You see the internet change fundamentally, almost overnight. Websites that once pulsed with animation and sound now display empty boxes or static fallbacks. This section explores the aftermath, a period catalyzed by a major historical turning point: Apple's public stance against Flash, most notably articulated in Steve Jobs' 2010 letter, Thoughts on Flash. This was the decisive blow, signaling to developers and companies that Flash's future was precarious, especially on mobile. Suddenly, web developers who had built careers on ActionScript, with its specific, now deprecated syntax, were scrambling. Creative agencies, whose portfolios were filled with elaborate flash sites, had to pivot desperately. Entire digital art forms, experimental animated shorts, complex interactive games, unique interface designs became obsolete, their creators facing the difficult choice of retraining or fading into obscurity. The core brand element here is the forced migration away from Flash, a technological exodus that catalyzed the rapid rise and standardization of HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript as the new foundation for web interactivity. Brand historians still debate how swiftly and decisively this shift occurred, arguing whether the industry was truly ready for such an abrupt transition. You experience the emotional shift firsthand, a feeling of disruption and loss for many, replaced by a frantic, urgent push to adapt for others. The sensory details tell the story, the look of broken puzzle pieces where rich content used to be, the silence where interactive sounds once played. It's a ghost town of discarded code. This flicker now represents a receding memory, a phantom limb of a different, perhaps messier, but arguably more artistically free web. And as this technology consolidates, a subtle foreshadowing emerges. The platforms dictating standards begin to amass significant power, centralizing control over the digital landscape. One quirky detail from this era: early attempts at building robust cross-browser HTML5 video players were notoriously buggy and inconsistent, a stark contrast to Flash's mature video capabilities, highlighting just how much ground the alternatives had to make up. Welcome to today's Brand Origin Deep Dive, where we unearth the fascinating histories behind the digital tools and platforms that shaped our world. You've heard of the technology, but do you know how a battle for control over online experiences and the relentless march of open standards sealed its fate, yet couldn't erase its ghost? If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from or what your fondest memory of this digital pioneer is. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. Section 1. Welcome to today's Brand Origin Deep Dive, where we unearth the fascinating histories behind the digital tools and platforms that shaped our world. You've heard of the technology, but do you know how a battle for control over online experiences and the relentless march of open standards sealed its fate, yet couldn't erase its ghost? If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from or what your fondest memory of this digital pioneer is. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. Section 2. In its nascent stage, our brand wasn't about ubiquity, but about possibility. Born in the creative crucible of the late 90s internet, it promised animation and interactivity at a time when the web was mostly static text and clunky images. This technology offered a dynamic canvas, letting designers build rich experiences directly in the browser, games, intros, even entire websites that felt alive. Its major historical milestone came swiftly as major internet portals and entertainment companies adopted it, eager to escape the limitations of early HTML. You see content creators flocking to it, drawn by intuitive visual tools that felt more like making a cartoon than writing code. A quirky, lesser-known detail? Early internal discussions reportedly included names like Splash or Zap, trying to capture that feeling of sudden, vibrant appearance online. Brand historians still debate whether this rapid, almost accidental adoption sowed the seeds of later security issues, prioritizing speed over long-term robustness. The goal was simple: make the web exciting, make it move. And for a glorious period, it absolutely did. Section 3. The thrill of early dominance eventually collided with the hard realities of the digital landscape. Our brand faced its first major crisis not from a direct competitor offering the same features, but from a fundamental shift in computing itself: the rise of mobile. Suddenly, powerful, portable devices were becoming the primary way people access the internet, and here the technology stumbled. Its resource intensity and battery drain became significant drawbacks, a flicker that was no longer charming but actively annoying. The major historical turning point was arguably a highly public critique from a major tech industry figurehead who outlined why this platform was unsuitable for the future of mobile, citing its closed nature and performance issues. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind not pivoting sooner or more aggressively towards open, lightweight alternatives better suited for handheld devices. A quirky detail from this era includes desperate attempts to optimize performance, leading to internal jokes about needing a dedicated flash fan accessory for early smartphones just to keep them cool. The shift was palpable. The brand was no longer seen purely as an innovator, but as a potential bottleneck holding back progress. Section 4. As explored in the previous phase, the writing was increasingly on the wall. The brand entered a period of complex evolution, grappling with its declining relevance in a world embracing HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript for web animation and interactivity. It tried to adapt, pushing tools for creating content for mobile and other platforms, but the narrative had shifted. The major historical milestone here was the formal announcement of the technology's end of life, setting a clear date for browsers and operating systems to cease support. This wasn't a sudden death, but a long, drawn-out sunset. A quirky detail? Even in its twilight years, obscure corners of the internet saw developers pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible with the platform, creating incredibly complex animations or interactive art installations almost as a form of digital defiance. Digital strategists continue to question the reasoning behind maintaining the technology for so long after its primary use cases had migrated, potentially delaying resources from newer innovations. This phase felt less like an exciting journey and more like decommissioning a beloved but outdated ship. Section 5. Building on what came before, the story doesn't end with the official sunset. You delve into the forgotten corners where Flash still persists. Abandoned websites displaying empty white boxes or error messages. Old interactive museum installations left dormant. Dusty CD-ROMs from the early 2000s gathering physical and digital dust. This section examines Flash's enduring, albeit diminished, legacy and the immense challenges of digital preservation it highlights. The core brand element here isn't a product, but the archive itself, a vast, sometimes messy collection of unplayable or difficult-to-access Flash content, a silent testament to technological obsolescence. You witness the look of emulation software like Ruffle struggling to render ancient animations correctly, see the grainy fidelity, and feel the silence of interactive experiences that can no longer be accessed natively. The emotional shift is one of nostalgia for a wilder internet, mixed with melancholy for lost creativity and an unease confronting the impermanence of digital culture and the deliberate culling of online history due to security risks. The symbolic thread of the flicker reappears not as a present annoyance, but as a haunting reminder of lost art and the cost of technological progress. A glitch in the web's collective memory. Digital preservationists continue to question the reasoning behind allowing so much online history to hinge on proprietary technology. A quirky, lesser-known detail is the sheer scale of community-led preservation efforts, like the Flashpoint project, which has archived hundreds of thousands of pieces of Flash content. A heroic, largely volunteer battle against digital decay. This digital decay foreshadows contemporary debates about platform control, the challenges facing web archives trying to capture dynamic content, and the fragility of online art and culture that exists solely on specific, perishable platforms. Section 6. And so, we reach the quiet denouement of this digital journey. The brand, the platform, the technology we've explored leaves behind a legacy far more complex than just its code or its rise and fall. The key takeaway is perhaps the stark illustration of how rapidly digital landscapes can shift, and how easily the creative output tied to specific technologies can become inaccessible, a digital ghost. Its cultural symbolism endures as a marker of a particular era of the Internet, one defined by experimentation, vibrant, if sometimes chaotic, design, and a playful approach to online interaction that sometimes feels lost today. We learned valuable lessons about the importance of open standards, the challenges of maintaining digital heritage, and the power users have when left to create freely, even within a proprietary box. The stumbles, the performance issues, the security flaws, the failure to conquer mobile serve as cautionary tales for today's platform builders. They remind us that user experience, adaptability, and security are paramount. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never truly in its product, or even its users, but in the shared stories, the creative output, and the lessons left behind in the digital dust. Building on what came before, you step out of the dimly lit digital archives, blinking as your eyes adjust to the relentless polish of the modern web. Gone are the playful loading bars, the unexpected animations, the moments of jarring transitions that defined the Flash era. Today, the Internet feels blindingly smooth, standardized, a vast landscape of swipeable interfaces and predictable layouts. This seamlessness is the brand element now, the global network shaped in part by the deliberate removal of Flash, the war on Flash. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind the intensity of that conflict, wondering if it was truly a battle for open standards or a strategic maneuver to consolidate control. Remember the humble right-click menu Flash offered, a simple, quirky detail that gave users a peek behind the curtain. It felt like a small act of defiance against the browser's default. Now, context menus are often locked down, platform-specific. The emotional shift is undeniable. A contemplative quiet replaces the former chaos. Was the victory absolute? What was gained in speed and security, and what was irrevocably lost in spontaneity and independent expression? The familiar flicker is gone, but perhaps it's transformed into an echo, a subtle vibration beneath the glass, a lingering tension between centralized power and the impulse for decentralized creativity. This final section reflects on that long-term impact, on Apple's ecosystem dominance, on the web's homogenized design, on the very balance of power online. Was Flash merely a necessary casualty of technological progress, sacrificed for a more stable future? Or was its defeat a strategic maneuver that fundamentally reshaped the internet in ways we're still grappling with, pushing us towards platform-controlled experiences? Is the flicker truly gone, or has it simply mutated into new forms of digital instability, like privacy concerns or algorithmic control? The story of Flash and its demise isn't just tech history. It's a cautionary tale, its echo subtly present in the very fabric of the web you use every day. As we reach the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on the path we've traced, from the flickering possibilities of early web animation to the controlled smoothness of the digital present. The story of Flash isn't just about a piece of software. It's a lens through which we see the forces that shape our online world. Key takeaways: innovation is relentless, corporate power is potent, and the platforms we build today determine the experiences of tomorrow. The legacy of Flash is complex, a pioneer of digital creativity, yet a symbol of fragmentation and eventually technological obsolescence. Its cultural symbolism is tied to the untamed, slightly chaotic internet of the past, a stark contrast to today's manicured gardens. The lessons learned are about the constant negotiation between control and freedom, standardization and creativity, security and spontaneity. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never truly just in its product, but in the people, stories, and even the stumbles that shape its rise and fall, echoing into the future.